Welcome to another episode of Harbor Rock Wealth Management's podcast series, Life, Health, and Wealth, where you get a front row seat to guests that you want to hear from. I'm Jimmy Luster. Across the desk is Reuben Smith,
Hello.
My good friend and business partner.
Yep.
Always here with us.
Another good day.
And back we have Frank Scavo, the Admiral of Artificial Intelligence. I always have to come up with something.
I guess so.
So you are back to talk about a few things. We're going to dive into AI again. So it's been 2 years.
Right.
And it would seem to me that in the world of artificial intelligence,
Yes.
especially since it's come on the scene so hot in the recent years,
Yes.
it's not a new concept at
Right.
all. But it seems like 2 years, there's probably a lot to talk about and a lot to maybe update our
Sure.
viewers, especially, and how it affects them.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get a little bit into the weeds, and that's
Right.
why we have an expert like you. I'm
Don't
glad
ex-
I'm not
don't
the one.
exaggerate,
I'm
please.
glad I'm not the one that has to to really dive into all the nuts and bolts. But
Yeah.
it's going to be a nice conversation again. So first off,
Yes.
you've had some changes in your life.
I have.
and we've been working together now for a few years.
Right.
So what's new with you, and how have you been?
The big change in my life is that I finally, what I say is I retired from employment.
There you go.
Okay, I retired from employment. Or as someone else said, I had a redirection
Okay.
of my life. But as I've said to some others, they ask me, so what are you doing now that you're retired? And I say, well, everybody assumes I'm going to take care of the 3 Gs. And I won't go into it except that it's golf, grandchildren, and going places. You know, like basically retired and not doing anything work-wise or mentally stimulating, just, you know, taking care of those 3 Gs. But what I was really concerned about was that I would still lead a meaningful life. And because of that, you know, things like, I mean, I was an industry analyst and consultant for many years, actually many decades. And I still felt in retiring from employment, I still wanted to cover the industry. And so I'm continuing to publish. I was one of the first tech bloggers I mentioned last time. I moved all of that to Substack. And I'm still covering the industry. So things like artificial intelligence and so on, I'm keeping up with. I'm still commenting. I'm still on LinkedIn and my Substack, and I'm still influential. I'm still influencing others and their views and opportunities like this. So that's been a big part of that. The other thing was, most people don't know this, but many years ago, I was writing Christian hymns and poetry. And many of my hymns are still being sung at churches around the world today.
Oh, wow.
And just before maybe like about a year before I retired fully from employment, I started to get back into that, especially because my daughter was writing Christian children's books and wanted me to help her, and she knew I could write poetry. So that has been very stimulating and very rewarding. It's caused me to renew some old relationships with a past mentor of mine from over 50 years ago.
Wow.
And because of that, I launched a second Substack.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Nice.
called God's Gift of Verse. So godsgiftofverse.substack.com. My professional Substack is enterprisespectator.substack.com, so you can look those up. But so you wanted to know how my views have changed from last time? Is that
Well,
what you-
yeah. I mean,
Well, last time we talked about AI, I think ChatGPT was relatively new to
Yeah,
us.
it's about 6 months, I think.
yeah, it seemed really hot in the
I
recent
think
years.
as far as being available and
Right.
out there, we had dabbled with it very, very lightly. So what's new in that world? What's changed it with your view on ChatGPT?
Well,
Or
the
OpenAI, all those.
OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google, Microsoft, Anthropic, Claude, all of these large language models have really improved quite a bit. They have gotten more powerful. They take, more chips. They take more energy. They're,
Yes.
3 Hoover dams or whatever it takes to run these
Yeah,
things.
right.
It's huge. So they have improved significantly. But there's some things that we talked about last time that are still issues.
Okay.
The biggest one is what is, as you know, people talk about hallucinations.
Oh, I remember
Right.
you talking about that.
They're still prone to what I call make-up facts.
Okay.
And sound very confident when they do it. And so I keep my eyes out for little examples of this. And the one that really amazes me every time, I think we talked about one case last time, is in the courtroom.
Right.
So I was going to say, is that
about
law firm still in business?
Well, I don't know about
That
them,
was a
but there are
crazy
other
story.
cases like that. You'd think, because that case involved an airline that was being sued and so on, and the lawyers used ChatGPT to come up with citations of other cases, and it just made up cases.
Right.
And they,
Yeah.
the opposing attorneys said, we can't find these cases.
Yeah.
These case numbers don't exist. And those lawyers were sanctioned for that. So you'd think, and this
Right.
got a lot of publicity, so you'd think other lawyers would have learned for that. But no, it's still happening. There was a case involving Walmart and a supplier. They did the same thing. They cited cases that didn't exist.
Wow.
Those lawyers were sanctioned. And another case in Indiana where a lawyer used one of the generative AI models to dig up cases that didn't exist, and he was sanctioned $15,000. Well, it gets even better,
Okay.
because it's not just lawyers. Judges are getting in on the act.
Oh no.
Yes. So there was at least one judge in Mississippi, and there was one in New Jersey. So there was two that in their rulings cited non-existent cases. And in one case, they had included the names of some plaintiffs that weren't plaintiffs in the case.
Oh man.
So, in my opinion, those judges need to be severely sanctioned or even impeached, because that's malpractice. I mean,
I
you
agree.
can't have a
I
legal
agree.
system that's relying on this. So what's happening is people have not learned that you got to fact check everything. And if you have to fact check everything, then really how much help is that giving you? Well, we can talk about some ways that
Sure.
the proper and improper use of AI, but that's the big thing that to me has not, and it's not getting better. They're still, because they're trained on existing data, and the generative AI is not deterministic. In other words, like 2 + 2 always equals 4. It's not like that.
Yeah.
It's probabilistic. So what it tells you is probably true, but may not be true.
Well, you shared with us that example of where does the sun rise and set?
Yeah. Better
Yeah.
go out and check tomorrow morning.
Yeah, you're like, but then you called it out,
Yeah.
remember? And you're all, I don't think that's right. And they're all,
Yeah.
you're right.
Well, that leads to,
You're right,
You're like,
Mr.
well,
Frank.
what is going on?
there's another point that I didn't mention last time, but something I noticed. It's called sycophancy. Okay, sycophancy.
Okay.
Generative AI tends to be a sycophant. Now, what's a sycophant? Sick, right? What's a sycophant? A sycophant or sycophancy is being overly agreeable. So if you use ChatGPT or any of them and you tell them, I'm thinking of doing X, Y, Z, what do you think about that idea? Say, I think that's a great idea. Come back and say, well, are there any counter arguments? Well, there are some counter arguments. And then you say, well, I think I want to go that way. Oh, yes, you should go that way. So it tends to be very agreeable. Now, if you ask it about, the opposite direction, it'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets scary, is that some people are using this for therapy, personal therapy. And a case I was reading about earlier this week was they're using it for marriage counseling. And so the husband is having a problem with the wife. He goes to ChatGPT or he goes to Claude and he asks, here's what my wife is doing. Here's what I'm thinking to say. Can you help me say it in a better way? And the AI, it just says yes and kind of encourages the user in that direction. Well, then the wife starts using it from the other point of view, and it's encouraging her along the same line of thinking. Well, this has led to divorces. It's just horrible.
Well, now I'm
They
thinking,
have one AI talking to the other AI.
and then how do they do couples therapy?
Exactly. That's a good point.
You
so
know?
it's I mean, they talk about AI safety.
It's yet another example I hadn't even thought
That's-
Yeah,
of.
go ahead.
No,
Well, I've also heard cases where, you know, minors are even going and getting advice as far as conflicts at school, and that's not necessarily turning out to
Right.
be favorable either. So
yeah.
I think I think there still needs to be some parameters put in there as far as
Yeah.
safety issues.
The AI developers try to put up what they call guardrails to
Yeah.
stop, anything to do with like suicide or things.
I was
like
going to
that.
just say.
Correct. That's kind
That
of
was-
But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like whack-a-mole, because they program anything that's related to suicide, they're going to stop and say, I can't help you on that. You need to see a therapist. But then they bring up something else, or it's just one thing after. The fault is in the basic design of generative AI.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about this agreeable component. You have an agreeable therapist.
Overly agreeable.
Overly agreeable therapist. And we're not talking about divorce or anything, but let's say I'm working on something internally. Am I actually getting work done if someone's just agreeing with me?
Right.
It's like having the ultimate like brown nosing assistant.
It's exactly what it is.
That's like, yes, sir. Yeah, yep, you're exactly right. Great idea, sir. Great idea.
Yes.
You're like, do you
Yes.
have an opinion of your own? I need you to,
Yeah, I need you to push back.
Tell me
That's
no.
right.
Well, you don't want it to think for you, and you don't want it to write for you. I mean, those are the big two takeaways as a professional that I feel is very important. So if I go to write a blog post or a research piece, I don't want to just feed in, here's what I want to write about, please write me an essay.
Write me a
on.
movie script. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I mean,
don't do that, and don't let it write. Don't let it think for you, and don't let it write for you. And through my career, I have managed groups of research analysts that publish research, and I've noticed now with the generative AI. I mean, the thing that's attractive to management of those groups is that wow, our analysts can be so much more productive. Instead of writing one report a week, they can write 5. But when you read what they write, it's not that insightful. It's pretty much everything, it's things you've heard before, and they're written in perfect grammar,
Yeah.
punctuation, English, composition, they're well structured, but they're boring.
Their lack of content.
There's
lack
no-
of,
They
there's
lack,
soul.
they
There's no
lack
soul.
originality, they lack insight.
yeah.
And so
Personal
it's
experience and yeah.
personal experience, practical application that no one's ever thought of, anything new. You don't see that.
Yeah.
And it's at the point where someone who's reading carefully can see that this is not original, and it can't be original because it's based upon other things that have been written that's in the training data for the AI.
Yeah.
And let me tell you now, because I don't want to be all negative on this, let me tell you how I do use it, and I find it tremendously helpful. I'll give you an example. So use it as a research assistant
okay.
to help you gather facts or gather information more quickly. So the other day, this is involving my Christian poetry and
Okay.
writing. So I was preparing for a memorial service for someone that I knew, and she and her husband had served as missionaries in New Guinea earlier in their marriage, earlier in their life. And so I was trying to put together some basic information about what they had done in New Guinea. And there were 2 tribes. The book that mentions them mentions 2 tribes in New Guinea. And so I read the book. I couldn't figure out who the tribes were. I looked them up on the internet, and I couldn't quite, was this the same tribe? So I said, heck with it. Let me just ask. Right in Google, you could ask it as a question. It'll
Right.
come up with an AI response. I said, what are the differences between these 2 tribes? Bam, it comes up like in 5 seconds, like 3 or 4 paragraphs that explain who these 2 tribes were and what they did.
Wow.
So that I can click on the link and check if I want to check and see. But it saved me so much time and confusion to realize, first of all, these were 2 different tribes. They weren't the same tribe. And here is, these were the cannibals. These were occasionally cannibals. Some very interesting information that helped me a lot. So use it as a research assistant, but I didn't let it write for me. And I certainly wouldn't let it speak for me, right? I took that information and I put it into my testimony about this couple. So that's how I use it in writing any type of research. Occasionally I will use it to help me get to the answer more quickly, but then I'll use my own words to write the insights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in one of these that I read that I thought was interesting, and it kind of reminded me of where we came from in our industry. You mentioned some sort of cross between productivity and quality in software development work
Right.
specifically, and people that are creating and expounding on AI themselves are using
Yes,
AI to aid in their work.
right.
And one of the things you brought up was more experienced developers
Yes.
potentially being pushed out of the industry for less experienced. And when I think of more experienced, I think of it more expensive, maybe someone commanding more of a salary, but with that comes this experience versus the newer folks, and maybe where that line of quality of work comes in. Can you
Yes.
add?
Yes, it's
that?
it's actually the other way around.
Okay.
Is that first of all, research that we did a couple, 3 years ago indicated that the best business case for generative AI in businesses, in companies, was in software development. No matter the industry, whether tech industries or hospitals or manufacturing, everybody does software development. And that was seen as kind of the slam dunk. This was the business case that was going to produce the most benefit, because developers would be more productive. They could produce more software more quickly. Therefore, fewer heads would be needed to produce the same or better software. Well, the way it's turned out is that has not proven to be the case. The ones that get the most benefit from generative AI are the junior developers, the new hires. They do experience more productivity. But overall, the productivity of the group does not improve as much, or may in fact not improve at all, or may be less productive. So, and the reason for that, others have done some research on this. And what they found is, if you ask individual developers, are you more productive using generative AI? They say, oh gosh, yes, 40%, how much? Oh, 40% more productive. Oh, I can code so much faster. Well, two things there. One is you're asking the perception of the developer. The AI fills in the code instead of having to type it out. It fills in the parameters and so on. But two things. One is coding, by many estimates, is only about 20% of the job of a software developer.
Okay.
The rest is design, the rest is meetings, the rest is thinking about the architecture, dealing with the users, gathering requirements. And AI can help with that, but that's not the coding. That's not the coding part. The other thing that they found is that the code generated by the AI is more subject to defects, bugs, right? It's not taking advantage of, it'll write something new instead of suggesting that you reuse another module that's already been written. So yes, you generate more code, but the question is, should that code even have been generated in the first place?
Gotcha.
So when these studies have been done, they found that the blog post said, software development for AI is really a mixed bag. There are benefits, but they're also on the negative side. So, and in discussing this with developers, one in particular said, yeah, when this first came out, GitHub Copilot, I said, oh my gosh, first it was scary. Then I tried it, oh my gosh, this is so good. I was euphoric. And then I got into it and I said, this has got its problems, and now I'm somewhere in between.
Okay.
On where this is going to come down. So it really is a mixed bag. In other industries and other applications of generative AI, there is this feeling like maybe it's not everything that we thought it was, and we're still trying to figure out how to use it.
So in this case, if it's coding for you, it's writing for you.
Correct.
So this goes back to your original point. Don't let it write for you. Let it maybe check your work or be a second set of eyes. Is there room for that in there?
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like there's
You
some
still will
redundancy.
use it to help you code. It'll help fill in parameters more quickly. But if you're not careful, you lose what they call the muscle memory.
Right.
The brain power that you use as a developer, you start to lose that edge.
Okay.
I mean, the extreme case of this, you're going to like this. There's something called vibe coding.
Okay.
Okay, vibe coding is, I don't know Python, but I'm going to develop this application in Python just with prompting. I need a user interface that does this, and I need this database, and develop me the database, the user interface, and write me, a credit check program or whatever it might be.
Sure.
And it'll generate an application, but the developer has no clue even how to write that. And
Right.
it's just crazy. It's just stupid that, and what it produces, it can't be used in production. It'll take you more time to debug it with an experienced Python developer
Gotcha.
than it would take just to write it from scratch. So
So do you see AI within software and coding? Do you see it being more of concentrated, that it's going to be just in certain segments of that versus trying to assist with solve for the whole problem or the whole question?
The developers are still figuring out where and how to use it.
Yeah.
And the feedback I've been getting is that it's generative AI or AI in general is more useful in other things outside of coding. Really, as a research assistant, we said last time, it's good for documenting code. It's good for taking and analyzing code, suggesting areas where it could be optimized or there may be bugs, reviewing as a peer review, 24 hours a day.
Sure.
Peer review is a very important concept in software development where you have another developer review your code. So using it like that and not just focusing on generating code, but using it in the review cycle, just like you would as a research assistant.
Well, that's how I see us eventually. We use AI in our day-to-day very lightly, but where I can see it being used, to say in financial planning, is
Yes.
having the ability to have a second set of eyes come
Yes.
back in and point out things that maybe, it'll say very broadly, this client perhaps looks like their risk is out of whack, or
Yes.
maybe there's a cash management issue or life insurance issue,
Yeah.
and that's fine, but sometimes I need that second set of eyes. And,
Yes.
yeah. So
Is the power of the handshake going to die with a generation someday?
or personal advocacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we say, we're not emotional about helping you make decisions in your financial planning world. That doesn't mean we don't get emotional with you when
Right.
you go through pain,
Right.
joy,
Right.
new things. So where is the generation of maybe Ruben's children gonna value what we do and how we do it, or are they gonna lean on? I don't know.
Or the power of the relationship of a doctor or or
correct.
an attorney, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
Is it all going to?
but maybe there's not as many financial advisors in the future, or physical doctors, or I don't know.
I don't think it will ever replace human empathy. It will. The generative AI can produce words that sound empathetic, but it does not have empathy.
I'm with you. Yeah.
And people can sense that. So no, I don't think the human element is ever going away. It may make you more productive, and like you say, do some of the financial analysis or support you in ways that give you more time then to
Right.
spend with your clients.
Right.
But not replace your interaction with those. I certainly don't want to deal with AI. I'd rather deal with you.
Right.
You could use AI to help you analyze my portfolio more quickly, but I want to talk to you guys. I don't want to talk to an AI.
Yes.
Maybe as a test in our next review, I'll have AI run the review and I'll write my own. So we'll,
You're gonna put a cardboard cutout of you in your chair. And, hi, I'm Ruben.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Do more AI workers mean less human workers?
Well, that's the big, they used to say in the old days, the $64,000 question.
Yeah. And I'm not expecting you to have, I am the Oracle, and put your Merlin hat and your crystal ball, and I don't expect you to have that answer, but what do you think about
I have had a 50-year career in enterprise IT, and I've seen technology trends come and go, and major disruptions all the way from PCs and the internet and e-commerce, and all kinds of disruptions. I'm actually an optimist this way. Some of my associates believe that AI is going to lead to widespread unemployment, and therefore, we don't want to get into politics here. Therefore, we should institute universal basic income to give everybody a flat amount every month, because there's going to be so much unemployment, people can't afford to live anymore.
Wow.
And they're going to need to create this massive social welfare state to.
There you have it.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
We've had some of those conversations with clients.
Okay.
So, yes.
No,
So,
please. Yeah.
We work
you know,
with-
I look back,
Yeah.
you know, my first reaction to that is, well, if that's going to happen, it hasn't happened yet, because unemployment is still near record lows.
Right.
Okay, so we're still talking about the future.
Yep.
Number two, looking at past technology disruptions, they did not lead to massive unemployment. In fact, they didn't even lead to massive unemployment in the industries where they were applied. So the first case I always use for this is, remember ATMs, when automatic teller machines came out? What was the prediction about
Oh,
ATMs
the
coming?
bankers. You don't need a banker.
You don't need tellers.
Yeah.
They're all gonna, you're gonna walk up to a machine, there's gonna be
Yep.
widespread layoffs
Yeah.
of bank employees, bank office employees.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we can't show you the statistics here, but take my word for this, you can look it up yourself. I asked this question on a panel discussion once. I said, what do you think happened to the number of bank branch employees in the years following the introduction of ATMs? And the other panelists said, well, from the way you're asking the
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they increased. I said, exactly.
Yes.
So what happened? There's always these unintended consequences, either positive or negative. What happened when ATMs were introduced to banks, branches? It made it more affordable for banks to open up more branches, because now they didn't have to hire so many tellers.
Interesting.
So you have fewer tellers per bank branch, but you have more bank branches.
A wider footprint. There you go.
You have a wider footprint in so just think about it. Now, instead of driving 10 miles or 5 miles to your bank, you can walk down the street and you come to a bank branch. And so the number of bank branch employees actually increased, but now they were doing different work. Instead of being behind the counter, and there's still a few bank, tellers there, they're now in front of
Yep.
in those little cubicles with desks, opening new accounts,
Yeah.
doing financial planning, right,
Yes.
in the bank.
We've been there, huh?
Helping you, opening savings accounts, selling you CDs, talking to you about life insurance and referring you to somebody. So there's new jobs that are created. Now, do those require a higher level of skill? To some extent, yes. But it's certainly more than, tabulating, taking cash and writing a deposit slip and submitting that. So that was one. The other one was the personal computer, and specifically spreadsheets. And I was there.
My
I was
favorite.
working in an IT department when PCs were introduced, and Lotus 123 or VisiCalc, I think, then Lotus 123. And it was like, oh my gosh. The accountants now, instead of, at that time, they were manually entering journal entries and
Right.
cash recording on these big wide ledger
Yeah.
pages in
Yep.
pencil, and they would erase them and they'd fill them in and they'd cross tab and they'd balance debits and credits. Oh my gosh. Well, a lot of that was automated by financial systems, but the PC itself automated those spreadsheets. And people said there are going to be layoffs, they're not going to need as many accountants. Again, what happened in the years following the introduction of Lotus 123 and VisiCalc and so on? The number of accountants increased.
There you go.
They weren't tabulating manual spreadsheets, but now they were doing more financial analysis and reporting. They're spending less time gathering data and recording transactions and more time analyzing data. So the value that they added through their job increased. I think the same thing's going to happen, or is already happening with AI. Yeah, there's going to be some disruptions, and I'll tell you where I think I am concerned. We talked last time about customer service.
Yeah.
So we've always had, you call into customer
Yep.
service, you get a phone tree, press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, press 3 for Tagalog, and so on. But now with AI, it has really automated a lot of that initial contact with the customer. The other day, my wife was on the phone, I think it was with an insurance company, and she had it on speakerphone so I could hear the dialogue. And it was scary good. I mean, she's talking to this, AI, and she's saying, no, that's not, here's my number. I need to check this account. I don't understand why it's not being reimbursed. Can you please help me? Yes, I can help you with that. Give me this information. She'd respond, and she'd say, well, that is really, the AI said, that's really handled by this other department. Would you like me to connect you? Yes. She waits a few minutes. The AI comes back. Actually, they're not working right now. Can I take your number and I'll have them call you back? And she said, give their number and call back. So then when she hung up, I said, Dorothy, you know that was a robot, right? She said, yeah, I know. I said, that's awfully good.
Wow.
Wow.
So that interaction would have been handled in the past, a lot of that, by a junior help desk representative,
Right.
service desk.
Right.
So my concern is if those jobs are being automated, how are customer service professionals going to get that initial training on the help desk if the bottom level now has been automated? And I think that's a real concern. I think ultimately it will work itself out, but right now that's kind of an open question on whether they can be trained. The other one, last time we talked about in the doctor's office, the scribe
Yeah.
that was
right.
used.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said then, I
Yep.
was listening to the recording last time, I said that I had talked to some electronic records companies that were introducing artificial intelligence to support the scribe and gathering the information and so on. I said, at some point, they said, we're not just going to support the scribe, we're going to replace the scribe. Well, I went to my annual wellness check with my doctor, and he says, just to let you know, this conversation is being recorded, and my AI system here is going to create a summary
is.
of this discussion. Are you okay with that?
And
said,
I will
"Yeah."
share with your wife all the ice cream that you're getting in the middle of the night. It can't be used against you in a court of law.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, speaking of what's on the horizon, is there anything on the horizon or anything that you see moving forward with AI that
Well, we've entered into what Gartner calls, Gartner has what's called the hype cycle. Gartner is a business research, IT research firm, and they've had what's called a hype cycle. I don't know that it's based on research, but it is very useful. Whenever there's a new technology, there's an initial enthusiasm that increases very rapidly to what they call the peak of inflated expectations. Okay.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And then there's some disillusionment and some questions and so on, and then the interest falls down in what they call the trough
Okay.
of disillusionment. Then, as people start to understand the real business value, there's the slope of enlightenment until it reaches more of an intermediate level that they call the plateau of productivity.
I like it.
Okay, and you can see this especially like with personal computers, with the dot-com boom, you definitely saw this.
Oh,
This
sure.
initial huge peak of inflated expectations, and then you had the crash, the
Right.
dot-com bubble burst, right? Dropping to the trough of disillusionment, and only then did you see gradual increased adoption until now today. E-commerce and e-business, I mean, it's just huge. I
Yeah.
mean, it's disrupted entire industries.
No.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And my point here is that, I checked Gartner on this. Generative AI is already on the slope down to the trough of disillusionment. We've already passed the peak of inflated expectations. So there's still all this enormous investment in AI systems, OpenAI's enormous valuations, which drives the demand for NVIDIA chips and other AI
Right.
chips, which are just through the trillion-dollar valuations, which then, because they use so much power, huge increases in the demand for electricity, right?
Right.
But now you think about this trough of disillusionment. If the business value is not as great as everyone expected, the demand for those AI services, which right now, they're just having to increase prices and they're still running these huge losses, the valuation of those stocks is going to go down. this is not market advice, but you know, it's not sustainable in my view. Okay,
Sure.
and that's going to mean the demand for chips, right? So you have that, and even the demand for power is going to level off. That has to be fully worked out before we can fully see what the real business case is for generative AI and other forms of AI as well. But we're going to see, it's going to be part of our life going forward. It's just remains to be seen exactly how we're going to use it going forward.
I like how you brought that up and related it to the .com
Yeah,
era or
really.
crash, because that was
That was
clearly-
recent enough that we all lived through it.
Sure.
you
I
know?
started
Yeah.
this career at the tail end of the .com crash. So
Yeah.
it was, what I was thinking about when you said that is right now there's an enormous amount of attention around this. There's more and more companies involved in the AI space. And what we saw during the .com crash is we saw a consolidation. A lot
Right.
of them didn't make it. Remember that Super Bowl with all the .com commercials,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of those companies didn't make it, but a few did. Yeah.
Final words?
I would just say, as we like to say, time will tell,
There you go.
which is always true. But
I like that.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, we always appreciate your insights
Thank you.
and for making some time. And I want to hear, I can't wait to hear some of this poetry. I mean, I'll leave you with this too, is we're really happy when we see our clients make the transition
Sure.
right.
and redirection
Yes.
and create or uncover their other identities that they've been so nose deep in their work.
Right.
And we always know that's a concern. So you are doing it gracefully and beautifully.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
we're happy to be a part of it.
Thank you.
So thanks again for your insights today.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And to our viewers, hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time.